What's up, everybody? Today's show is gonna be sweet. It's for a good cause, okay? I'm not making any jokes here. I think it was a bad pun, but you'll find out why in just a bit. Let's go. Hello, everybody. How are you? Well, okay, wait. Let me backtrack a bit. Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? It's not been a while. We've been talking more frequent than usual because, we've got nothing else better to do but to record podcasts, and hopefully you can learn something for this episode. Now, I think early on I was mentioning something about, this episode's going to be sweet, but I think one common thing that you do in the Mamak these days, people be like, hey, boss, Milo ice kurang manis, or Teo ice kurang manis, or Teo ice kurang ice tambah ice, tapi kurang manis. But it's that word kurang manis enough though. And that's why we have a very special guest today, because in conjunction with World Diabetes Day that's happening in November, we're going to be having a series of episodes to kind of bring more awareness to diabetes, because I feel that a lot of us are very not in. I would, to put it in for the lack of a better word, we are not informed enough about the disease. And yes, I do say disease. So we have a very special guest today on the show who is basically taking time off to be together with us. Well, actually, in this case, just me. Welcome to the show, Dr. Alex Tan. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, all right, for the benefit of our listeners and our viewers who are watching, could you please kindly explain what it is you do?
Yeah, so I'm a consultant endocrinologist at Sunway Medical Center, and endocrinologist is a big word. I mean, it's the study of hormones, but most of the patients that I see have diabetes.
Right. Oh, okay. So for me, is when I heard about this episode that's going to be scheduled to talk about it, I wanted to do it because for me, diabetes, it really hits home because my mom's diabetic. And the thing was, I think when you're a kid, when you tell a kid who's 4 years old, oh, I'm diabetic, they'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They'll just say, oh, okay. Because the kid will probably see the person and the person's still alive, and they'll be like, probably nothing to be worried about. Right. But then again, when I grew a little bit older, my mom turned diabetic when she was pregnant with me. And then, when I grew older, she always tell me things like, if mommy ever gets into an accident, or if I get admitted to a hospital, the first thing you must tell the doctor is I'm diabetic. Then I'm like, oh. And I never really asked why, but until one day I asked why. But the thing is, my mom, Asian parents, they will never ever tell you what's wrong with them. They're very stubborn one. Even though they're their left leg pain until can die, they'll be like, nah, I'm fine. You know how Asian parents are. But I suddenly saw my mom starting injecting needles into herself, and I'm like, oh, okay, now it looks serious. And then when you see your parents start injecting themselves with stuff, you tend to freak out. It's like, Mom, are you okay? What's going on? And that's where I got to know about how diabetic patients, in the long run, if you do not take care of yourselves, it could lead to a lot of complications. So, what is diabetes, doctor?
Yeah, so diabetes is basically a condition where your sugar is high, and it's not just high for a short while. Because sugar high for a short while is actually relatively harmless. You eat something extremely sweet, it will bounce up. But if it's high for a long time, that high sugar can harm different parts of your body, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toe. And so therefore, the sugar level has to be controlled. So that all these complications, these dangerous effects can be prevented, essentially. So that's diabetes. High sugar over a long time causing damage to different parts of the body.
Do you think Malaysians are well informed enough about... is it safe to say that diabetes is actually a form of disease?
No, diabetes is absolutely a disease, right? Because if you think about disease, it's something that causes somebody to have bad things happen to them, right? Whether it's as mild as just a cough, or something as bad as COVID, where, the bad thing is maybe death, right? So diabetes is absolutely a disease. And the thing about it, it's one thing, a high sugar, but it can lead to all sorts of things. I mean, I think you might be aware, blindness, need dialysis, may end up with amputation, may end up with heart attack, stroke, you name it, it's there, So it's a disease because it can lead to so many other diseases as well. So yeah, it's not something that you want to play with.
Which brings me back to my first question. Do you think Malaysians are actually well informed about the disease itself, or are Malaysians not well aware enough?
No, I think diabetes, most people would have some clue, right? I think, no matter what your background, there is a word for it, Kim Liu, or kencing manis, or ini penir. Okay, so there is some knowledge. It's just about to what level that knowledge is, and to what level they can use it to either help somebody else with diabetes or to help themselves, if they are going to get diagnosed and therefore treated as well. So there is some knowledge lah. I can't say that it's kosong. I can't say that it's zero. Okay, but it could be better. Yeah. So I think that's the state where Malaysia is at the moment.
Put it this way: if my mom was not diabetic, she wouldn't just pull me one side one day, ask me to sit down and poke a needle into my hand and put my blood, and put the droplet of blood into some machine, and all of a sudden some numbers come out, which I told her, Mom, I know I'm good at math, but this looks like add match, and then she'll tell you, okay, you're fine. So I grew up like that. My mom once in a while would, hey, come, I check your sugar level, and she'll just prick my finger out of blue, and that's where I got to learn about, okay, so if it's about 6 and above, you should be wary. All right, you should be maintaining it 6 below. Or if you're 7, you should get yourself screened and stuff like that. And the only reason why she told me about this is, because I'm diabetic, it could be a hereditary kind of disease, because you could get it because your mom's diabetic. So for me, it's that's where I started to freak out a little bit. I was like, I don't want to be diabetic. The way you're telling me is it seems like something that is very mafan. You know what I mean? But a lot of people do not, for me, is only because of COVID. Are we more well aware that diabetic can lead to heart complications, it can lead to kidney failure, it can lead to a lot of things, gangrene. Some of them say you have to amputate your leg and stuff like that. And because I mean, sorry to say this, but a lot of deaths because of COVID. A lot of people had comorbidities, and a very common comorbidity was diabetic. Yeah, diabetes.
Yeah,
so if it wasn't for my mom having the disease itself, I wouldn't be well informed. I'd probably drink a can of Coke, 2 cans of Coke, 3 cans of Coke a day. After I go jogging, I'll down a bottle, because you know why? I need to be refreshed. And I will always have that understanding that diabetes is an old person disease, because a lot of people, only old people have it. But I think these days, don't you agree that a lot of younger patients are also susceptible to diabetes, or is it only targeted to a specific group of people?
No. So, my goodness, the specific group of people is Malaysians. If you have a Malaysian IC, you got Malaysian citizenship, you are at risk, basically. Now, okay, So, we have one of the highest rates of diabetes in Southeast Asia. We are really the jago as far as this part of the world is concerned. Now, let me just give you some figures. So as long as I have been doing these diabetes awareness campaigns and talks and things like that, there's always been data. So one thing is very good. Our Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia is good at getting data. So there is this ongoing project called National Health Morbidity Survey, NHMS, right? And 2011, the rate of diabetes in Malaysia was 11.2%. Halfway through the decade, 2015 became 13.4%. And then now 2019, the latest figure is about 18.3%. You round it off to 20%.
Okay.
That's 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5 adult Malaysians. So this survey was only for adults. If you're age 18 and above, 1 in 5 has got type 2 diabetes. And the other thing that this research found was that about half of them were not aware that they had diabetes until they were checked as part of that project. Right. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
If you have 1 in 5 people, I mean, you sit around the table with 5 other people, and they're Malaysian and they're adults. the likelihood of one of them having diabetes is there, So if you're Malaysian, and then 1 in 2 are not diagnosed until they took part in the project, So luckily your mom was out of love, like Asian parents, right? Come here, check your sugar. I mean, I must say, I've never heard that kind of story before. You're the first one, but 1 in 2 were undiagnosed. Goes to show there's a lot of it going around. And back to your question. Sorry, I didn't really answer it. Yes, there's a lot of young people. So the youngest age group which was studied was 18 to 29 years old. And there were people with diabetes in that age group, roughly 1 in 17. Okay, so if you think about it, you think about your schoolmates or your university mates. How big was your class in school?
Okay. I had like 20 people in school. Oh, that's
20 people in school. Yeah, so it's highly likely that out of that 20 people, 1 or 2 of them, at least one of them will have diabetes at your age. This 18, is the 18 to 29.
Are you saying that? Are you saying that I'm old? I take offense to that. I'm kidding. Then right, okay. So here's my next question though: is having diabetes something to be really shy about? Because I feel like, okay, even if someone has diabetes, they won't openly claim, "Hey, I'm diabetic." You know what I mean? It's something that they keep quiet about, and they fail to like, hey, at most, right? We will go to a restaurant. It's like, oh, sorry, I can't eat that. And then they won't explain why. Because I have friends who are diabetic. And then only when you ask them, what you want to eat? Like everybody wants to order this sweet dessert and want to share because, if we divide it amongst 5 people, we pay less. What you don't want to eat? You're a party pooper lah. Oh, I'm diabetic. And everybody like, oh. I kind of feel like there is not enough, it's not common enough. And like as if someone has diabetic, people tend to judge like, oh, okay, what's gonna happen to this guy? You know what I mean? Is there some sort of like a stigma with people who are diabetic?
Yeah, it's difficult, and that scenario that you just described, Jin, it happens up and down the country, and it happens all over the world. I mean, your mom sounds like she's on insulin, so she's getting jabs. Okay, so sometimes you can jab just once a day, that's fine. Sometimes you have to jab with every meal. So imagine going out to a restaurant and then if you are not shy about it, you can actually just lift up the corner of your shirt or your blouse or whatever and do the jab, okay? Sometimes there are some people who are not shy, they just do it openly. I've seen that before in One Utama before. But there will also be people who run to the toilet to do it first.
Yes.
Okay? And there are people who will be so shy that they might not do it. And nobody wants to be labeled as a party pooper, There are 5 people sharing a dessert. Either I come out and sort of say that I can't eat too much because I have diabetes, or I just suck it up, keep quiet, and not reveal, which sometimes, right, for Asians, that's the more usual thing to do. Then you go home and then you have a panic and sort of say, oh, yo, I just ate that and my sugar is super high. It's not like I can uneat it. So I think we have to, it's on many levels, like Jane, you have to work towards saying that, oh, it's okay. Let me give you an example. If you know your friend has asthma and you see one of your other friends smoking in front of him and he's coughing away, as a responsible friend, what are you going to do? Hey, can you maybe like go smoke outside or something? Obviously, this guy, right, his lungs are not good. He's already coughing away.
I'll punch the guy who smoke. I'll punch the guy who smoke. How can you smoke inside? No,
okay.
Just kidding.
No. I mean, So obviously, that's just being a considerate human being, So I think if you sort of know that somebody has diabetes, I think just get to understand a bit better. Of course, people with diabetes is not to say that absolutely cannot eat dessert, 0 carbs. People have cheat days, people have birthdays, people have celebrations. Yeah, that's fine. Meaningful food, etc. Those kind of things are okay, but at least have that consideration to sort of say, and then don't treat people like freaks like you're injecting, and like it just makes it tougher on them. So I want to come out and really advocate that if you know somebody who has diabetes, get to learn a bit more about the disease, get to learn a bit more about them and how you can probably offer some support, and the other way is that sort of, oh, you diabetes, shouldn't you be eating this or not eating this? And then, it might be their cheat day. It might be the day where they are celebrating, or it might be actually okay. They're actually eating it so that their sugar doesn't go too low. So get to understand them and at least support them, So, I mean, I think people, if they have asthma, they have no problems using their inhaler. Okay. And you see that. But for diabetes, it may not be the same. I think there's still some stigma about, going to a wedding dinner and then pulling out an insulin pen.
Right.
But I just wish it wasn't that way, in Malaysia. I just wish people could be able to manage their diabetes openly and freely.
I think we're getting there. I'm not saying that we're not. I'm pretty sure we're getting there, because like diabetes used to be a very enclosed kind of thing. I know my mom always made me feel like, hey, you got diabetic. I mean, she didn't tell me not to tell anyone, but she made me feel like, if you have diabetes, then you are like an outcast. But now, having realized that diabetes is so common, the conversation should be even more common, rather than like, this guy's got diabetes, and make that person an outcast. I mean, like, I get where you're coming from. When if a person is eating sweet stuff, if he's a diabetic, you don't judge him, because he probably already knows what his level is, how to control his sugar intake, and so don't be the smart aleck who doesn't have diabetes telling a diabetic patient on what to do. That's what you're trying to say.
Absolutely. You got that right. I mean, that's a great summary. And I mean, I think it's just being supportive lah. It's just being supportive and sort of like not judging them, like you say, not criticizing, or sort of being the smart aleck, saying, hey, this can, that can, I heard this cannot, that cannot. And just being supportive and sort of saying, so how, what do you think is there on the menu? And I think in a way, right, if you start sort of accommodating, you'll find that your diet to accommodate theirs would actually probably be healthier as well, because diets for diabetes are generally, the supposed diets are generally quite healthy, and so it's also a chance for you to improve, if you don't have diabetes, your own diet as well. So I would sort of really, really take that on and sort of say that, look, if you know someone with diabetes, get to know them better, get to know how you can help them. Sometimes they might experience low blood sugars, which is the opposite, which is a side effect of taking the medicine, and the food that they took was not matched. So if you even learn how to help them when they're in that situation, right, learn how to recognize it for them, because sometimes they might start acting a bit weird, like a bit
like they call it hypoglycemic.
Hypoglycemia,
where someone kind of like lightheaded and kind of loses their orientation, that kind of thing. Like they feel like they're gonna faint. My mom has that as well. So my mom is my mom's on insulin, so she has to basically inject herself before every meal. I remember as a kid, I was like, Mom, can I inject for you? But no. I'm very well aware, but I don't think I'm well aware enough. So that it's great that I'm having this conversation with you. So let's get down to the nitty gritty and the more technical side of stuff, because I feel like the person listening on the other side has got to take a lot to take away from this. I don't think we can cover it in one session. Diabetes, there's two types. There's type 1, type 2. What is the difference?
Sure. Okay, the majority is going to be type 2 in Malaysia. Okay, like more than 95% of the patients with diabetes in Malaysia is going to be type 2. And the other one is type 1. Now, the major difference is usually the age at which it's diagnosed, and whether or not you need to go into insulin straight away, like as in straight away. So if you're type 1, you tend to be diagnosed as a kid or a teenager, okay? And you need to go into insulin straight away. Like your body has like totally zero insulin. Now, type 2 is different because you don't need to go into insulin straight away. Your sugar is high, but you still have some insulin. It's just that it doesn't match up. It's not enough. So there are some medications that you can take initially to sort of match that up. And once you are a type 2, you remain type 2 all the way. It's not as though like once you go into insulin, you switch to type 1. We categorize it based on how you started out. So if you started out insulin straight away, usually it's type 1. If you started out, can take tablets a bit first or even diet therapy first, then you are type 2. So your mom, by the sound of what you said, you started on tablets, etc. first, and then only insulin later on. Then she type 2.
She went to... They said that insulin is better for her. So like, pardon me, because I'm not a biology graduate. But correct me if I'm wrong, but our body generally produces insulin. And insulin is the thing that helps break
It's the
down
thing.
sugars and converts them into
Yeah.
energy in your body. Am I right to say that?
Absolutely. So there's two ways to see the role of insulin. One, you have hit the nail on the head. It converts it into energy so that your heart can beat, your brain can think, you can work out, etc. But it also, you always eat more than what you actively need at the moment lah. Okay, so it also takes it and stores it. So you need insulin to store your sugar
Right.
as well. Because otherwise, if you cannot store sugar, you would basically need to eat all the time.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So insulin does that. You eat, it takes it and allows it either to be burnt up to use as energy or to store. So yeah, that's the role of insulin.
What causes your insulin output to decrease?
A few things. One of them is aging. That's the most common thing. Okay, everything decreases as you age, right? Your hair also gets decreased. Your eyesight decreases. Okay. The other thing is diabetes. Now, diabetes is really complex. Diabetes isn't just about the insulin itself, but how sensitive your body is to insulin, how your body processes the glucose and removes it from the body through the urine as well, how your gut absorbs the glucose. So it's actually a bit more complicated than just the insulin story, okay? And what causes diabetes to come out? Yes, there is this genetic portion to it, like right with your mom. So I would say for you, Jin, you have a 50-50 lah, right?
I get scared.
Because half of you is dad and half of you is mom.
I will definitely ask you a couple of questions before this because I had a scare myself. But we'll get to that in just a bit. Okay. Sorry. Go on.
Sure.
What
was I talking about? So there's a genetic component, but there's also a very strong, it's not completely genetic, there's also a very strong environmental or lifestyle component as well. And that lifestyle component is, a lot of it is actually linked to being overweight or obese, right? Because the data, again, from NHMS tells us that 2 out of 3 patients with diabetes are either overweight or obese. Okay. And 3 out of 4, 75% have this thing called abdominal obesity, right? Where it's not, the fat distribution is not like, sometimes you look at a sumo wrestler, they got fat arms, they got fat neck, they got fat upper chest, they got fat thighs everywhere. But there's also a second type of obesity where typically, as you see some of these old uncles sitting in a kopitiam with a singlet, their arms are skinny and thin, but their belly, right, is big. So that's abdominal obesity. 3 out of 4 patients with diabetes have this sort of abdominal obesity as well. So again, it's a bit of both. There's this hereditary component, okay, but there's also this lifestyle component, especially if you are obese.
So my next question to you is, obviously when people say diabetes, in Malay it's kencing manis. I know sorry, I had to bring this joke up, but last time when I didn't understand what all tim liu is a Cantonese way of saying diabetes and kencing manis in Cantonese. I remember asking my brother, hey, what is all tim liu? And he's like, oh, it's diabetes. Oh, how do you know you have diabetes? You drink your own pee. That's that's the typical sibling, who doesn't want to answer with facts. Diabetes is only caused by eating sweet stuff. Is that true or false?
No, not at all. So as was said before, right? Diabetes is complex. Diabetes, there's this hereditary component to it. There are some people who are really lucky, Jin. Some people whose both sides of the family don't have diabetes and they can eat all the ice cream in the world, okay? And their sugar doesn't
I hate those people, I really hate them.
It's one of those things, right? We all have our flaws. I mean, you look at the royal family of Britain, right? All of them are balding before the age of 40. So sometimes these genetic things are just there, So some people, some genes, some families, they just can't handle too much sugar in their system. So there's that genetic component. Then there's that environmental component or that lifestyle component as well. So if, for example, your body is not the type that can handle a lot of sugar, but you live in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa and you have to hunt rabbits to eat, then you ain't gonna get diabetes also,
okay.
right? Okay. But if you live in the middle of sub
Yeah.
Petaling Jaya with Grab Food
I
and
know.
Food Panda and work from home, then you
Yeah.
gotta watch out.
I'm that. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
I don't need to
I'm
say,
looking at you, Penang. That's right. Okay. So now, like when someone gets diagnosed with diabetes, how, what? Okay, before I go into that section, let's rewind a little bit. How does one know they have diabetes? How do they look out for it? Because I feel that most people who find out they have diabetes, it's like already too late. It's like, oh, you already had it for quite a while, but they probably don't pay attention to their body enough to understand that the body is trying to tell them something. So what are some of the symptoms that is like clear obviousness that, you are diabetic?
Yeah, so it's not easy. So, okay, the first thing is, of course, if you notice ants around your urine, I mean, that's a
Really?
banal
Okay.
one. But yeah. That's a really clear one. But that's also like later
Okay.
down the line. The second thing is that you're peeing a lot. Okay, peeing a lot can be a sign that your body is trying to expel all that extra sugar. Now, how does your sugar come out of your body? Mainly
Yes.
through your pee. Okay, so if your body's trying to expel out all the excess sugar, I just can't take it. There's just so much sugar in my system. I want to dump it out. But you can't pee out pure sugar crystals, so you always drag on a little bit
Yeah.
of water with it. And if you find yourself peeing a lot, waking up at night 5-6 times to go and pee, during the day 5-6 times to go and pee, right? And that will also that's one of the signs. Being thirsty also, because as your sugar concentration rises, okay, so you start with plain water, you slowly add 1 drop of Ribena, 1 drop of Ribena, 1 drop of Ribena. After many drops, it's going to be really concentrated, if you can imagine. And when your blood is that concentrated, it will sort of activate your brain and your body to say, hey, I'm thirsty, you need to dilute me out. Okay, so if you start drinking a lot and feeling thirsty all the time and peeing all the time, that's also another sign that you could have diabetes. But these are in a way relatively late. If you wait until you have these signs, it's not going to be good enough, because that just means your blood sugar is so concentrated already. Your blood is like Ribena already. It's crying out for, it's so thirsty. You're drinking all the time. It's really trying to dump out. So for me, what I would advocate is, if you are Malaysian and you're an adult Malaysian, you should go and get checked, okay, on a regular basis. Don't think that just because you're young, like I said before, even patients between 18 to 39, 1 out of 17 has it. And in fact, in that age group, NHMS tell us that 90% are undiagnosed.
Oh, wow.
That means they only discovered when they entered the project. So that's one of the things. Now, especially if you have a family history, either side of the family has diabetes, or if you were pregnant with diabetes in the past, okay, or if you're obese and overweight and generally unhealthy, if you have other diseases which have been diagnosed, for example, high blood pressure or high cholesterol, they usually kelompok one, they come empat sekawan, they would call it, okay. So these are some of the things, I would really sort of, in a way, advocate just going out and not just waiting for symptoms, okay, going out and getting checked if you have a background that is highly suggestive that you have diabetes. And at the end of the day, 1 in 5 Malaysians, the chances are to me pretty high.
So, okay, it's funny that you mentioned peeing. So how many times does one person pee on average on a day? And once you've passed that number threshold, you'll be like, okay, something's not right here.
No lah. So yeah, there's no. So you see, the thing about peeing also is I know you brought it up.
I'm pretty sure.
Are you a holder? Are you a holder?
Oh, no,
there are some
I'm not.
people who are holders. There are some people who little bit also need to run and then let go of a little bit, and then small but frequent amounts. Okay. So there's no real number of times that you should track lah. I mean, I hope that you guys are out there listening are just busy enough living your life. But one of the best ways is probably at night. If you wake up at night 1 time, that's fine. 2 times, okay, not too bad. But if it's more than that, it's starting to disturb your sleep, right? You keep going, drink water, keep going. That's something which is not too good. Now, I wouldn't give a number to it as well for the daytime, but if you feel that your need to go to pee is so not so interfering, you know, like you have to record a podcast, then you have to joke halfway through the podcast and say, Ginny boy, excuse me, I need to go. Now that's obviously not good already. It's already interfering in your life, right? Or if you find yourself like having to plan your I mean, I had some patients who were so severe, they were telling me, you know, doc, before I was diagnosed, I had to plan my life around my peeing. Yeah, before I go to board the train, I need to make sure I empty the bladder first, because I know that by the time I come off the train, I may not be able to. And this is not train to Ipoh, you know, this is like going to work, take MRT kind of thing. So I say, if that's so bad already, your body is just crying and trying to dump out all that sugar from you, you must be thirsty like heck. He said, yeah. You know, that's really late and you should have gotten diagnosed earlier. So yeah, that's some of the things. It's not, you can't really count the number of times.
It just,
you know, if it starts to interfere, then
the reason why I asked, of course, you know, when I was a kid, right, my mother said, oh, you know, when you have this thing that is a godsend, but at the same time, it's hell, it's Google. You tend to Google your symptoms, and then like when Google was introduced, back then was Yahoo, and then they have all these things, like, you know, you start peeing. As a kid, you'd be like, you're sitting there, it's like, do I need to pee? Okay, no. Then you wait. Oh no, this is my third time peeing. Oh crap. You know, but like, you know, after, you know, when you grow older, you get an idea. So now the right way to say it is actually when it interferes with your daily routine. Yeah.
It's actually, for me, right, once you reach there, it's like bad already, because it's like your body is really trying to like, cry out for help. So maybe just make it a habit to check if you have risk factors like the one I said, family history, etc., being overweight, obese. Just check minimum once a year, I think. And if anything is picked up, then basically you may need to check a bit more often if, say, for example, you're borderline.
Okay. And then it's funny. Like, I really had to ask the question because or the person listening will probably be like me as well, will start paying attention to the number of time they pee. So please don't do that. The best way is to go get checked. But here's the thing that a lot of people, I think they know this, but, you know, maybe for the benefit of those who don't know, diabetes is an irreversible disease. Yes, in a way. Actually, if you look at cutting edge, if you look at what where we are now, there's this new idea amongst endocrinologists, amongst doctors, that we can put it into remission. And put it into remission, remission is a word that we normally associate with cancer, right? So we don't dare to say cure, because the problem with cancer is we know that sometimes, like few years later, the breast cancer can come back, you know, in different parts of the body, for example. So remission just means like cancer-free, but it may come back. So one of the latest ideas in the world of diabetes is that actually there are certain things, some very extreme things that can be done in some cases, not all cases can go into remission, that can help to put you into remission with the diabetes. And one of them is extreme weight loss. So this is like for individuals who are sumo wrestler size, and you do surgery on them to make them lose weight, or they undergo like really severe starvation type diets and they lose half their body weight. You can put the diabetes into remission. Other ways that have been tried, but this one is a bit out there lah. You know, it was only been done in China, where they basically force people to go onto intensive insulin from the day that they had diabetes. Like from the day one you're diagnosed with diabetes, we didn't bother with the tablets, and we really pounded you. They really pounded them with insulin. That's why it's never been done anywhere else in the world. They just pounded them with large amounts of insulin, and then they managed to put the diabetes into remission for a short while. But you know, that's kind of so when you say remission, does it mean that, you know, they can go on with their daily lives without medication and just live their normal lives?
Yes. So the latest definition is to say that 3 months, 3 months, no medicines, and yet the sugar remains normal. You know, normal diet, no medicines, 3 months, your readings are normal. We consider you to be in remission.
Okay. All right. And of course, I mean, I would like to put it out there. Don't believe your seafood and whatever not are giving you this type of miracle water that will cure your diabetes up, because there are people out there who do this.
Yeah, I know.
They are.
I know. It's terrible. I know it's
Like
terrible.
all these
It's
aunties,
terrible.
right, will go to these people and say, "Oh, don't worry, I will just wushu kung fu you, and then your diabetes will be cured." And you may,
Yeah, diabetes gone,
yeah,
COVID
it's
gone.
like a lot of people would
you
think
know,
about this, but a lot of the older generations actually believe this. They actually they think that okay, diabetes no cure ma. Oh, if doctor cannot cure me, the spirits will cure me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but I just find it so dumb and ridiculous. I mean, like again, yeah,
I know, but I think people look for positive
Yeah,
things
yeah.
lah, right? And people look for hope. That's the thing. But as a doctor, I want to give you hope. I want to give you hope, but I also need to give you the honest truth. Now, what I said about remission is only for a select few of individuals who can actually do it and lose large amounts of weight. You're right. For most people, it's not a curable disease. It's not a remission disease, but the good news is that this is a disease that can be controlled, and the control is going to prevent you from having all those nasty things the dialysis the blindness the gangrene, etc. So yeah, it cannot be cured, right? But it can be controlled. So to me, that's something positive to look at. Depends how you look at it.
My mom has been having diabetes for about 36 years. She's
You just gave away your age. Because
I'm 36. Hey,
yeah,
it's okay, man. I'm 36 and I look 25. You look 18. So yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think my mom is very disciplined with regards. Okay, like when I was a kid, when she told me she all team Liu and she had diabetes, right? There was one time, being kids, right? When you tell them something, they'll be like your army officer commando. I will throw everything from the fridge that is sweet and not eat sweet thing. No, go on this no sweet diet together with my mom. I used to do that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But that was just the surface of it, because for me it's like in my mind was like, oh, diabetes cannot eat sweet things. But the thing is, that's the wrong thinking, because everybody needs needs sugar as well in some way in order for their body to function. Okay, I mean okay. So I'm gonna ask you like more of like a personal question. So this is just gonna rewind back to MCO. I kind of feel like MCO has probably sparked maybe or encouraged a lot more potential diabetic patients, because when you're stuck at home, you tend to devour a lot of food.
Yeah.
A lot of people tend to drink a lot. So I think like at one point in time, I was eating a lot and I was putting a lot of weight. And then again, my mom one day just said, "Hey, come let me prick your finger, because you're putting on a bit of weight." Like when people are like nothing else better to do, they're cooped up at home, and when they're stressed out, they eat. And like for me, I found a lot of like comfort in eating and drinking and whatever, not alcohol, that is. So my mom pricked my finger, and I think I remember that she saw my reading of a 6.9 one morning, and I think like a borderline 6.97, and that's where I freaked out, and I'm like started Googling and whatever not, and asking, and then next thing you know, what I did was, you see here, I think, I'm not sure if people can relate to me or you can relate to this as well. When I found out that I had like a very high blood reading, I didn't automatically go and like basically go to the doctor straight away. I went out, I exercised, and in about 3 weeks I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor to do what do you call it? A blood test.
Checkup.
And it went down to like 5.5.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time. I think it went down to about under like maybe 6 or 6.1 lah. Then this year, I took upon it to really change my lifestyle, because my line of work, we don't sleep. And apparently not sleeping enough kind of contributes to the risk of you getting diabetes. Not saying that it will, but there is a risk, a higher risk. So like I think my latest checkup with the doctor this year, I came back with a 5.5, and I gave myself a pat on the back. But does that mean that's why I want to ask you this question? Does it mean I'm still okay, or am I diabetic and I don't know about it?
Okay, so you bring up lots of great points. Okay, I think the first point that I think is really something that people need to understand is people kind of think that my sugar is high solely based on what I makan. So whether I makan 1 bowl of rice or 10 bowls of rice, whether I makan healthy cereal or durian. But your sugar can also be, like you say, up because of other things. For example, stress, right? So not sleeping for several days, or not sleeping at all, right? Or having exams, or having I don't know, a snake in your living room, okay, can spike your sugar. Okay. Honestly, yeah, if a cobra dropped down in front of you, your sugar would spike. Not because you makan a durian, but because your body is preparing to fight. So when you are in a stress mode, right, your body engages to sort of say, hey, look, you need to have unlimited resource to sugar in your bloodstream so that you can do what you got to do, be it film a movie, or be it fight a snake, or be it do what you got to do. So that also can. I have patients who came and said to me, Doc, I don't understand. I've not been eating well because I've been having this teacher, right, head mistress, I've been having these PIBG problems. Okay, that's the one thing that made her sugar high. It was just the stress of the whole thing. And then once PIBG over, magically my sugar came down again, right? Stress can definitely be a factor. Illness can be a factor as well. So we've seen lots of people, you kena fever, you kena dengue, you didn't eat anything, but your sugar is high. Okay. Yeah. The other factor that you bring as well is just checking your sugar at one point in time can be a bit high because of stress factor or other illnesses, can be a bit low if you've just, for example, done a marathon or something like that. Okay. So one of the more modern ways to look at it is to check something which is the average sugar, which we call HbA1c. I don't know if
I have, because of my mom.
This HbA1c, your mom, I know, right? She probably talks to you about it. But this is like what your average sugar has been doing over the past 2 to 3 months. And generally, if you check that, you'll have a slightly more accurate kind of picture of what your sugar has been. That means you're not just capturing it at one point in time, but you're averaging out all the highs and the lows as well. Another way is to go and do a sugar drink test where we purposely test you, okay? Before you drink this sugar drink, we'll check your sugar one time. And then 2 hours after you drink this very sweet sugar drink, okay, all right, we'll check how your body responds to it and see whether your sugar is high. So that's like the absolutely, like if you absolutely want to double check, triple check, quadruple check, that's like the gold standard way of doing it. Or you can do the HbA1c. Those are some of the ways that we look at somebody's body and what their sugar levels are sort of responding. So
I'm quite curious to the one. So the test that you were mentioning, you drink a sweet drink and you pay attention to what your body does. What will a diabetic patient, or how will a diabetic person react if they took a really sweet drink?
Okay, now I'm being really, really honest here. Okay, I'm not making this up, but the number you need to remember is 7-11.
Okay. Yeah.
Honestly. So if your fasting level is above 7, meaning that before you took the sweet drink is above 7, diabetes. Wow. If it's below 7, okay, it's 6 to 7, that's that pre-diabetes kind of range. Okay. Now, if after you minum, it's above 11.1, but we round it off to 11 lah, okay?
Then okay, I'm gonna bring it back to the part when you were mentioning stress and stuff like that. So like I woke up one day and I remember pricking my finger and I got like 7.1 or 2, but like if I took another one and it went down to a 6.9. So did I suddenly get diabetes, or did I suddenly did I suddenly not get diabetes?
I see. Okay. So that's why it's important also that when we diagnose diabetes, remember right at the beginning, I sort of said that, look, it's high blood sugar over a prolonged period of time, So the stress of poking your finger or the stress of waking up, because waking up is stressful, man. I don't know about you, but for me, waking up is stressful. The alarm goes off. My body is big time protesting, okay? So the stress of waking up sometimes can make your sugar a little bit high. Okay, that's one of the things. The other thing you need to know is that the finger prick test, right, is not 100% like going to be tepat. There's going to be a little bit of deviation. So that's why between 7.1, 6.9 is pretty close. And you can't expect it's just, say for example, temperature, right? You cannot expect the temperature of your hands to be the same as the temperature under your armpit. Okay, so in the same way, you can't expect your blood glucose in this finger and this finger to be absolutely the same as well. So it's not the most accurate. So if you really want to have a gold standard, if you really want to be a super tepat way of having a diagnosis of diabetes, then basically you have to go and get the proper blood check from,
So
from
I
your
guess
vein.
the better way to do it is to go to a doctor like BP, or and basically poke your arm over here, get out some
Absolutely.
blood and do the test. And which I did after that, just to like put my whole, I went and do that fasting the night before, and then going like, and take it, and it came back with a 5.5 or 5.7, I can't remember, but I sent it to a friend. Everybody has a friend who's a doctor, forwarded to my friend, and be like, okay, you're fine. So now I also want to ask this next question, because I think like it will be very beneficial, because a lot of people always think that, I got diabetes, is the end of the world for me. Is it the end of the world for a person who has diabetes? I know you mentioned this before, that it can be controlled, but a lot of people tend to think that, I'm diabetic, I've been diagnosed. The word diagnosed is scary enough, because it sounds like you're being diagnosed with a disease that it's going to kill you. So is it the end of the world when you get diabetes?
No lah. I mean, obviously, Jin, your mom has had you for 36 years. She's been alive for 36 years. It's obviously not the end of the world. She's able to raise her kids, and it's great, right? She's able to see her grandchildren. So it's not the end of the world. Okay, but you do have to be like your mom, be proactive. She sounds like she was very proactive, very careful, very jaga herself. Okay, and just take some basic steps. Go and see your doctor regularly. Go and get checked regularly, and have your diet and your medications adjusted regularly. Okay, to keep it all under control. I mean, your mom is a perfect testament, man. She's lived for 36 years with it. Okay, so she's had a life. She's raised you. She's seen her grandkids. Any Asian parent would be like, wow, great, right? So I think it's definitely not the end of the world, but you have to take care. You have to take care. The thing about the outcomes in diabetes is that they are 100% preventable. It's not as though like you're on this like super dangerous cancer where within 6 months it's going to spread to your brain, to your liver, to your lungs, etc. No, it's super preventable if you just take some basic steps and look after yourself and remain motivated looking after yourself. I mean, I guess one of the things which many of my patients face is remaining motivated to jaga themselves over such a long period of time, because it can be quite tiring, diabetes. You can't sort of say, I only have diabetes from Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday. No, my sugar okay one. So you have 24/7, 365. You have to make sure you go and see a doctor, get your medicines, take your medicines on time every day, make sure you have a good diet, control and check as well. So sometimes remaining motivated can, in a long-term thing, it's like a marathon, can be challenging as well.
Cool. Now I know we're gonna be talking to you again very, very soon, but I don't want to dig too much out of you. But I think I just want to say that the difference between someone who has diabetes and someone who doesn't have diabetes, is there. I know we touched about it before. It's like diabetes, people treat him differently, but take away everything. If a person has diabetes, can they say they are very different from a person who doesn't have diabetes, or can they live the same normal life as the person who does not have diabetes?
No, I mean, you can. So, I want to believe that we live in a world where we can be really inclusive, and so you just have to look at it like asthma, or you just have to look at it like wearing specs.
Yes.
Okay? Now, you could argue and sort of say, hey, doc, I don't want this for the rest of my life. Why are you forcing me to wear this? Well, because if you wear it, you can see. Because there's a benefit to it. Okay? I'm sorry, doc, why do I got to brush my teeth? So mafan. Why can't I just leave it? Okay? So you can don't brush your teeth, but there'll be consequences. Okay? So what I would say is that it's the same with many diseases, and diabetes is one of them. It's a unique disease because it's closely linked to what we eat. Right? You can tell people who smoke, never smoke again. You can tell people who drink, never drink again. But you cannot tell people never eat again. Okay? But you just basically the nuance is you eat carefully, you eat according to how you've been advised, control. It's not about not eating certain things also, it's about controlling the portions, etc. And you can live a normal life, you know. You can have a family, as your family has shown, you know, you can enjoy yourself, go for wedding dinners, you can go for holidays. Okay, these are all the things that we don't go for now,
I know.
right? Because it's COVID. But yeah, you can. You absolutely can. Of course, there are things that you have to take care of lah. Just like I know, you know, I need to go and get my glasses, my eyes checked regularly. I need to get my teeth checked regularly. That's one thing. I need to make sure that the power is up to date, right? I need to make sure I keep my glasses carefully and I don't sort of smash them all over the place. Okay, so yeah, there are things that you need to look after and take care. You know, if I put this everywhere and it gets crushed, then I can't see. Okay, so it's the same with the diabetes. If you take care of it, you will be fine. Okay, but you need to be motivated and
it will eventually be a routine of your life. So in other words, you know,
it will. Yes, routine is a very important word.
So it means, in other words, what we're trying to say is like, you know, take corrective measures to control your diabetes, and you will be as normal as you were when you were born or growing up and stuff.
Yeah. The one thing that after looking after so many people with diabetes, young and old, is and I used to work in University Malaya in the government sector. So rich and poor, young and old, thin and fat, type 1 and type 2, pregnant, non-pregnant, male, female. The one thing that has always struck me is that those who do the best are people like your mom who are motivated to look after themselves and motivated to look after themselves over a long time. Many people sometimes fall off the wagon. That means in the first 3 months that they know, right, they completely turn into a cow, eat grass only, and you know, exercise every day. But after 3 months, they burn out. Okay, but those who remain motivated and remain on course, come and check regularly, get their medicines adjusted regularly, get their diet looked at regularly, they do well. They do really well.
What are some of the most common treatments for diabetes? Okay, like for me, I know my mom, she gets insulin, and then she used to take some pills. But what are the more common, like for a person who just been diagnosed with diabetes, you know?
Yeah, so if you've been diagnosed and the sugar is not that high, sometimes you don't need any medicines. You just need to have a healthy diet and get some exercise as well to lose weight. Okay, so that's the bare basic, and you could argue that is the one thing that throughout your life you should be doing anyway, right? So diet and exercise, healthy lifestyle, that's a basic treatment. I would call it a treatment already. Then of course, nowadays with diabetes being such a big worldwide problem, there are plenty of medications that can be taken, and these medications come in the form of tablets and pills, but also injections. Like you said before, and even the injections have become more and more advanced. You know, there's even, can you believe it? There's even now injections which can be given once a week. Oh wow! I know, right? I know. And there are even injections which can be continuously pumped into your body.
Yeah, is it something that you wear on your body?
Yeah, you wear
it's
on your body.
There's a celebrity in Hollywood that does this. I'm not sure if you know, but his name is Nick Jonas. Have you heard of Nick Jonas?
Yes.
So I know, like,
of course. I'm not so old, lah, Jin. I know who Nick Jonas is. I'm not an uncle.
Yeah. So like, you see, he caught my attention because one day, like, you know, he was wearing that, and like, oh, hey, mom, do you want that? And my mom like, no. It probably looks expensive too, but it's good for someone like him to come out and tell people he's got diabetes.
Other people who are celebrities who have Halle Berry.
I didn't. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. But she's so fit. But she was so fit.
One for the boys, one for the girls.
Yeah, but she's so fit though. How did she even get? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did she?
Yeah. Okay. So it can happen to anyone. So okay, doctor, I know I've taken up a lot of your time. I know I've asked you a lot of questions.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but you know, I'm going to be calling you back because, you know, in conjunction with World Diabetes Day is happening in November. We also encourage this thing that's going around. It's called Ops Kurang Manis. And, you know, it's basically encouraging everybody to kind of lessen your sugar intake. You know, when you go to a Mamak store, it's like, hey, boss, kurang manis. You can also say kurang manis also can lah. But sometimes I tend to wonder whether these Mamak fellas actually really kurang manis or not. It's like, He's like,
I know.
kurang manis. Okay, I give you 1 can. Kurang manis. Okay, 1 teaspoon. Yeah, so I mean, like, this is in conjunction with World Diabetes Day to kind of create more awareness about the disease. Yes, I mean, we can call it a disease now. Doctor, before we go, anything you want to say to our audience listening before we get you back here again in the next couple of weeks?
Okay, so I guess the one thing I would say is that go and get checked if you haven't been checked, no matter how old you are, because as a Malaysian, we have risk factors for it. If you do have it, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's something that if you put time and effort and remain motivated, like Jin, your mom, you can do well. You can do really, really well. And yes, stay healthy, especially in this time of COVID and working from home. And yeah, take care of yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doctor. We'll have you back again, in conjunction with this month of awareness for diabetes. Thank you so much for listening, guys. You can stream us on Spotify, also on Apple iTunes. We will speak to you guys next time.